She woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of an incoming message. The screen displayed, "Can you hear me?" The sender was her own number. I didn't immediately understand what was happening. My phone vibrated, the screen illuminating the dark room. I squinted and read the message. "Can you hear me?" The sender's number, my own. I sat up in bed, my heart beating faster. Maybe it was a glitch. A bug? I checked my call history and saw something even stranger. An hour ago, I had supposedly called myself. Sleep eluded me completely. Thoughts raced through my mind, each more unsettling than the last. By morning, I decided to check my detailed call records. The call history showed a number from which my call had come. I entered it into a search engine. It belonged to a person who had died 3 years ago. Jeremy Lawson. He had disappeared, and then they found him in the river, 10 miles from town. His death was ruled an accident. A terrible shiver ran through me. I remembered that I knew him. We had worked together. Not friends, but our paths had crossed. I opened his old social media page. His last post, "If something happens to me, don't believe what they tell you." I felt like I was losing my mind. All day I tried to find information about his case. I found an article. The police had closed the investigation, but Jeremy's mother claimed it was murder. I drove to see her. The woman opened the door and gave me a long, studying look. "Did you know my son? We work together. I need to check something." She silently let me in. "Do you believe he was murdered?" She was quiet for a long time, then nodded. "He told me someone was following him. That he had found something people would kill for." "Found what?" She took out a box containing his belongings. Among them, I saw a phone. She handed it to me. "This is all that's left." I turned on the screen. My number was in the list of recent calls. I felt my fingers grow cold. I looked at her. "He called me?" She nodded. "The night before he disappeared." A chill ran through me. I returned home and locked all the doors. My heart was pounding. The phone vibrated. Sender, unknown. "Can you hear me? If he died 3 years ago, then who is trying to contact me?" The message glowed on my screen, mocking me with its impossibility. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. What do you say to a ghost? Or worse, to someone pretending to be one? The apartment suddenly felt too quiet, too empty. The familiar shadows in the corners seemed to stretch and shift as I stared at them. I typed a response, deleted it, then tried again. "Who is this?" I hit send before I could talk myself out of it. The message marked as delivered, but there was no immediate reply. I placed the phone on my coffee table and paced the living room, trying to make sense of what was happening. Jeremy Lawson. The name summoned a vague face, sandy brown hair, wire-rimmed glasses, quiet demeanor. He had worked in IT security at Midwest Financial, where I was handling customer accounts. We had exchanged pleasantries in the break room, maybe shared an elevator ride or two. Nothing more. I tried to recall our interactions, searching for anything significant, but came up blank. Why would he call me the night before his death? And why was I receiving messages now, 3 years later? My phone vibrated again. I nearly knocked over a lamp lunging for it. Find the truth. Another message from the unknown number. My heart hammered against my ribs. I called my service provider immediately, demanding an explanation. After 20 minutes of being transferred between departments, a supervisor confirmed what I already knew: the texts were coming from an untraceable number, possibly using spoofing technology. "There's nothing we can do, ma'am. You might want to contact local authorities if you feel threatened." That night, I researched Jeremy Lawson's death. The official report was sparse: male, 32, found in the Lakewood River after being reported missing for 48 hours. No signs of struggle, lungs full of water. Accidental drowning. But his mother's claims nagged at me. What had Jeremy found? What truth was I supposed to uncover? By morning, exhaustion had settled into my bones, but sleep remained elusive. I called in sick to work and drove to Midwest Financial's headquarters downtown. The security guard at the front desk recognized me. "Hey, Olivia. Thought you were out today." "I am, Frank. Just needed to check something." I forced a smile. "Do you remember Jeremy Lawson? IT department, died a few years back." Frank's expression darkened. "Yeah, terrible thing. Why you asking about him?" "Just, came up in conversation recently." "Did you know him well?" Frank shrugged. "Not really. Quiet guy, kept to himself. Always working late, though. That caught my attention." "Working late on what?" "Couldn't tell you. Above my pay grade." Frank's radio crackled, and he turned away to answer it. I took the elevator to the 5th floor where IT security was housed. The department had been renovated since I'd last visited. Open concept workspaces had replaced the old cubicles. I spotted Rachel Chen, the department head, and waved. We'd worked together on a fraud prevention project years ago. "Olivia. What brings you up to the Fortress of Solitude?" She smiled, but her eyes held a question. "Had some time off, thought I'd say hi." I paused, then decided on directness. "Actually, I've been thinking about Jeremy Lawson lately." "Do you remember him?" Rachel's smile faltered. "Of course. Terrible loss." She glanced around, then lowered her voice. "Why the sudden interest?" I hesitated. "I'm not sure. Something about his case has been bothering me." "Did he ever mention being concerned about anything? Feeling threatened, maybe?" Rachel studied me for a long moment. "Let's grab coffee," she said finally. In the small cafe across the street, with the noise of the espresso machine providing cover, Rachel leaned forward. "Jeremy was working on something sensitive before he died. Some kind of security audit. He found irregularities in the system, unusual access patterns, missing logs." My pulse quickened. "Did he report it?" "To me, yes. I took it upstairs to Maxwell." Rachel's expression hardened. 2 days later, Jeremy was dead, and I was told the audit had been a false alarm. "System update glitch," they said. "And you believe that?" Rachel took a sip of her coffee. I had no choice but to accept it. But no, I didn't believe it. She hesitated. "Look, I shouldn't be telling you this, but about a month after Jeremy died, I found a USB drive taped under my desk with a note, just in case. It was from him." "What was on it?" "Data. Financial transactions, emails, internal communications. I only glimpsed it before my computer crashed. When I rebooted, the drive was corrupted." She met my eyes. "That night, someone broke into my apartment. Nothing was stolen, but my laptop was missing." A chill ran through me. "Did you go to the police?" "With what?" "A corrupted drive and a break-in where the only thing taken was a 5-year-old laptop. They'd think I was paranoid." Rachel checked her watch. "I need to get back." "But Olivia, be careful. Whatever Jeremy found, it got him killed." My phone vibrated in my pocket. A text message from an unknown number. "Rachel knows." I nearly dropped the phone. The timestamp showed it had been sent seconds ago. I looked around the cafe frantically, but saw only the usual lunch crowd. Rachel frowned. "Everything okay?" I showed her the message. The color drained from her face. "Someone's watching us right now," she whispered. We both scanned the room again. Nothing seemed out of place, yet the feeling of being observed was overwhelming. "I should go," Rachel said, gathering her things. "And you should too. Forget about Jeremy. Forget this conversation." But I couldn't forget. Back in my apartment, I pulled out a notebook and started mapping what I knew. Jeremy had discovered something in the company's systems. He'd backed up evidence, sensing danger. The night before he disappeared, he called me. Why? What had he wanted to tell me? I rummaged through old work emails, searching for any interaction with Jeremy. In a folder marked Archive 2022, I found a single message from him with the subject line, System Access Request. The body contained only a standard form asking for temporary elevation of my account privileges for a security audit. I remembered now, he'd approached me afterward, apologizing for the inconvenience. "Just routine," he'd said with a tight smile. "Nothing to worry about." But there had been something in his eyes. Concern. Fear. My doorbell rang, startling me from my thoughts. Through the peephole, I saw a man in a dark suit, tall, broad-shouldered, expressionless. "Ms. Pearson." "Detective Gabriel Martinez, Boston PD." He held up a badge. "May I come in? I'd like to ask you some questions about Jeremy Lawson." My pulse spiked. How did they know I was looking into Jeremy? I opened the door but left the chain on. "Can I see that badge again, please?" He held it closer. It looked genuine, but something felt off. "What's this about?" "It's come to our attention that you've been asking questions about a closed case. I'd just like to understand why." "I wasn't aware that was a crime, Detective." His smile didn't reach his eyes. "It's not. But it is unusual. May I come in? I'm actually heading out. Maybe we could schedule a time at the station." Something flickered across his face, annoyance. "Of course. Call this number tomorrow." He handed me a card and left. I immediately called the Boston PD. They had no Detective Gabriel Martinez. My hands shook as I double-checked all my locks. Whoever was watching knew I was digging. I was getting close to something, but what? I retrieved the box of emergency supplies I kept in my closet and took out the old flip phone I'd held onto for emergencies. It had no connection to my regular accounts, no trails to follow. I turned it on and called the only person who might help me make sense of this. "Professor Litvak. It's Olivia Pearson. I was in your cybersecurity seminar last spring." I paused. "I need your expertise on something. It might be dangerous." Professor Litvak had been a white-hat hacker before joining academia. If anyone could help me navigate this, it was him. "Dangerous how?" he asked, voice sharpening with interest. "I think someone was murdered for discovering something they shouldn't have, and now I'm being watched because I'm looking into it." A moment of silence. "Come to my office tomorrow. 7 a.m., before anyone else arrives. Use the south entrance." That night, as I gathered the evidence I'd collected and prepared for bed, my phone vibrated again. Trust no one. Not even Litvak. I froze, staring at the screen. How could they possibly know about a call I'd made on a different phone? Sleep was impossible. I sat by the window all night, watching the street below, jumping at every passing car and shadow. As dawn broke, I made a decision. I would meet with Litvak, but I wouldn't tell him everything. Not yet. The university campus was quiet at 7 a.m. I took a circuitous route to the computer science building, checking constantly for followers. Professor Litvak was waiting at the south entrance as promised. "You look terrible," he said by way of greeting. "Haven't slept." He nodded knowingly and led me to his office, a cluttered space filled with computer parts and books. "Tell me everything," he said, closing the door. I gave him a modified version, the mysterious texts, Jeremy's death, the fake detective. I left out Rachel, the USB drive, and the fact that I had any connection to Jeremy beyond working at the same company. Litvak listened intently, asking occasional questions. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. This is either an elaborate hoax or something very serious. He tapped his fingers on the desk. Let me see the messages. I showed him the texts on my regular phone. Interesting, he murmured. The texts appear to be coming from a ghost number, untraceable, temporary. Sophisticated. He looked up at me. You're not telling me everything, are you? I hesitated. I'm being careful. A small smile. Smart. Okay, here's what we do. I'll analyze these messages, see if I can trace their origin. You need to find out what Jeremy discovered. Whatever got him killed. How? Start with his mother. She gave you his phone, was it his work phone or personal? I don't know. I didn't think to check. Find out. And Olivia? His expression turned grave. Watch your back. Whoever's doing this has resources and reach. As I left campus, the morning crowds providing some cover, I felt a strange mix of fear and determination. Someone had gone to great lengths to silence Jeremy, and now they were watching me. But why send the cryptic messages? Why not just stop me if I was getting too close? Unless they needed me to find something. Maybe I was being manipulated, led down a path for someone else's purposes. My phone vibrated. Getting warmer. Check the river. The river. Where they found Jeremy's body. Was that where I'd find answers, or was I being led into a trap? I drove to Jeremy's mother's house first. She seemed unsurprised to see me again. You found something, she said, her eyes sharp despite her frail appearance. Not yet. But I'm looking. I showed her my phone with the messages. Do you know what this means? She studied the texts, her hand trembling slightly. Jeremy always said the truth was hiding in plain sight. She looked up at me. The phone I gave you, have you really examined it? I admitted I hadn't. She nodded as if confirming something to herself. It was his personal phone. The police returned it with his effects. His work phone was never found. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with Jeremy's phone, turning it over in my hands. It was an older model, password protected. I had no way to access its contents. Or did I? I thought about what his mother had said. The truth hiding in plain sight. I turned the phone over and carefully removed the back cover. Taped to the inside was a small micro-SD card. My heart raced as I extracted it and inserted it into my laptop's card reader. It contained a single encrypted file named insurance.pdf. I needed a password. I thought about Jeremy's last social media post, if something happens to me, don't believe what they tell you. I tried, don't believe, nothing. What he tell, nothing. Ifisholdi, nothing. I stared at the screen, frustration mounting. What would Jeremy use as a password? Something meaningful, yet not obvious. On a hunch, I tried River Mile 10, the location where his body was found. The file opened. What I saw made my blood run cold. Financial records, emails, photos, evidence of a massive money laundering operation at Midwest Financial. Millions flowing through shell companies, offshore accounts, all hidden behind layers of legitimate transactions. And names, executives, politicians, even law enforcement officials who were being paid to look the other way. At the end was a note, if you're reading this, I'm probably dead. They found out I discovered their operation. I've set up an automated system to contact someone I trust if I don't check in for 72 hours. Find Detective Sarah Reeves at Boston PD Organized Crime Unit. She's clean. Trust no one else. Automated system. The texts. But they weren't coming from Jeremy, they were coming from someone who had hijacked his failsafe. Someone who wanted me to find this evidence, but didn't want to be directly involved. I copied the file to a secure drive and went to close the document when I noticed something else, a small folder icon in the corner I had overlooked. Inside was a video file. Jeremy's face filled my screen. He looked tired, afraid. If you're watching this, then my failsafe worked. I found something at work, something big. Money laundering, bribery, possibly worse. I've gathered what evidence I could, but they're on to me. I think I'm being followed. He ran a hand through his hair. I called you tonight because I need to give you this, but you didn't answer. I'll try again tomorrow. He leaned closer to the camera. If something happens to me, go to the river, the spot where Oakwood Drive meets the water. There's a hollow tree on the bank. I've left a backup there. He checked over his shoulder. I have to go. Be careful. They're everywhere. The video ended. I sat in stunned silence. He had called me that night to give me the evidence. But I hadn't answered. I checked my call history from 3 years ago. There it was, a missed call at 11:42 p.m. from a number I didn't recognize. Jeremy's number. I had been asleep, phone on silent. If I had answered, would he still be alive? No time for guilt now. I needed to get to that tree before anyone else did, if the evidence was even still there after 3 years. I grabbed my keys and headed for the door, then stopped. What if someone was watching my apartment? Waiting for exactly this reaction. I peered through the blinds. A black sedan was parked across the street, a figure barely visible in the driver's seat. I needed a distraction. I called for a rideshare on my regular phone, specifying pickup in 10 minutes. Then I slipped out the back exit of my building, circled around the block, and caught a taxi 2 streets over. Oakwood Drive, where it meets the river, I told the driver. The spot was deserted when we arrived, streetlights casting long shadows across the water. I paid the driver and waited until his taillights disappeared before approaching the riverbank. There were several trees along the water's edge. Which one was hollow? I moved from one to another, feeling exposed and vulnerable in the darkness. The third tree had a small opening at its base, barely visible unless you were looking for it. I reached inside, my fingers brushing against something plastic. A waterproof pouch. Inside was another USB drive, sealed against the elements, and a handwritten note. If you're reading this, I was right about everything. I'm sorry for dragging you into this. As I pocketed the items, I heard footsteps on the path behind me. I ducked behind the tree, heart pounding. Ms. Pearson. A woman's voice. I'm Detective Sarah Reeves. Jeremy Lawson sent me. I remained hidden. Prove it. He left a failsafe. Messages sent automatically if he disappeared. They led me to you. A pause. I've been investigating the money laundering at Midwest Financial for years, but could never get solid evidence. I still didn't move. If that's true, why contact me now? Why not 3 years ago when he died? The messages just started coming through a week ago. Someone activated his system. Another pause. Someone who needed both of us to find the truth. I thought about the texts on my phone. The one supposedly from Jeremy. Show me your badge, I called. Slide it toward the tree. A police badge skidded across the ground to rest at the base of the tree. It looked genuine, but then, so had the fake detectives. How do I know you're not working for them? I asked. You don't. But right now, I'm your best chance at staying alive. They know you have the evidence. They're coming. As if to punctuate her words, headlights appeared on the road above, illuminating the path to the riverbank. I made a split-second decision and stepped out from behind the tree. Detective Reeves was a petite woman with sharp eyes and a determined set to her jaw. We need to go. Now. We ran along the riverbank, away from the approaching lights. Behind us, I heard car doors slamming, voices calling out. This way, Reeves said, leading me to a small dock where a motorboat was tied. Get in. As we sped down the river, the shore receding into darkness, I handed her the USB drive. Everything's here. The financial records, the names. I nodded. And more. Jeremy left a video message. He knew they were after him. Reeves studied me. You know what this means, right? Once we use this evidence, they'll never stop coming for us. I thought about Jeremy, about the life that had been cut short because he dared to expose the truth. I thought about the messages that had guided me, the mystery that had consumed me. I know. But the truth needs to come out. My phone vibrated in my pocket. One final message from the unknown number. The dead can speak, but only if the living are brave enough to listen. I stared at the screen, a chill running down my spine. If Jeremy had set up the failsafe, but someone else had activated it, who had been sending me these messages all along? And more importantly, why had they chosen me? The boat cut through the dark water, carrying us toward an uncertain future. Behind us, lights continued to search the riverbank, but they were growing more distant by the second. Some mysteries, I realized, don't have neat endings. Some truths remain partially hidden, even when exposed. And sometimes, the dead do speak, through the evidence they leave behind, through the questions they compel us to ask. Jeremy's final mystery remained unsolved, who had activated his failsafe after all this time. But perhaps that was a question for another day. For now, I had done what he asked. I had heard him.